The favorites, we here for the latest. South side or the north side, not tuned to the greatest. Home team for the home teams. Both sides got our own rings. On the mound or the long ball, but we don't put the wrong strings. Yeah, it's that time of the year now. Wrigley or Gantes or the whole league that we hear now. New show with a new mood. Discussions and interviews. Trade rumors that might be. This is Pinwheels and Knife.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pinwheels and Ivy podcast. I'm Aldo alongside Kevin and Mitch, and we're going to bring to you the latest on Cubs and White Sox news. As always, Pinwheels and Ivy is brought to you by Sports Mockery. Download the Sports Mockery app, get all the latest news on the Cubs, White Sox, Bulls, Blackhawks, and Bears. Turn on the push notifications. Again, we can talk about it. I think we're about to get into draft season, so obviously there's news there. And after that, trade deadlines come around at like the first couple of days of August. Some action on both sides of town. So download the Sports Mockery app. Visit sportsmockery.com. All right, guys. I was going to start off a lot negative on the Cubs, but we'll save that for a little later. Let's go with some Sox talk here. Mitch, what the hell is wrong with Lucas Giolito?
I don't know. It's almost getting concerning. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt for now, just because he was so good in 2019, 2020, and 2021. He had a sneaky good season. But ever since the post-sticky stuff ban, his spin rate's been declining a lot. Post-ban last year, I saw tweeted it was at 2272 RPMs, and this year it's at 2161. So it keeps dropping. His fastball velocity is down too. It's almost that Dallas Keuchel's gone, so now he's trying to do his best Dallas Keuchel impression. But it's a little concerning because the velocity's down and the spin rate's down. His changeup doesn't seem to be nearly as effective as it's been in years past. So, yeah, it's a little concerning to see his ERA back up in the fives. But hopefully he can turn it around. I mean, there's still a lot of time. He did have the injury early on in the year, so I will give him the benefit of the doubt for now, but it is getting a little concerning. You have to wonder if the sticky stuff, not being able to have it, if that's affecting him.
Kevin, I saw some talk after his start against the Blue Jays Wednesday afternoon, and obviously this is his fifth straight start now where he's allowed at least 4 earned runs. Back in the offseason, a big story heading into spring training was how he put on 20 pounds of muscle, putting on a lot of bulk in the offseason. Is that a factor, do you think, at all? Pitching that new frame. He had the injury. He was on the COVID list. That could be a factor. That's what his struggles are coming right after him coming off COVID. And we've seen, Yohan Moncada last year. And I mean, Yohan Moncada, I guess, maybe a whole different story with his overall struggles the past couple of years. But maybe that could be a factor too. What are you seeing in Lucas Giolito? Is it a mechanical issue? What are you seeing?
I think the biggest muscle that's given him the most fits, what I would say, is probably the one between his ears. I think that when you have, and this is something that a lot of people don't really see because it's part of the regiment, but as a player gets a little bit older, especially after they come up and they want to have a little bit of staying power, the bulk up part of it, the weights, they do have to do and add like more strength training to what they're doing, because I know it sounds really crazy, but you're already on the decline after the age of 18. Your testosterone is already going down. It is a downhill. So as you get into your mid 20s, they start upping your heavier weights. You start doing a little more bulk work because you're going to burn more over the course of the season because you don't have that testosterone to keep going for you. So it's I don't think it's as much him bulking up that could cause a problem. I mean, we always say you want baseball muscles, not beach muscles, and I don't think he went full Jose Canseco, but it is important to see if he overdid it or he's still learning to adjust to where his strengths now were built. I mean, the human body is a weird thing. I mean, we usually know our own bodies, but that does make for a difficult adjustment period, if you will, because of you're learning now. All of a sudden, perhaps you have to change your arm slot a little bit because maybe your shoulder muscles are a little larger, or maybe your lats are a little bit bigger, and you have to readjust. You're not getting the same. And it will affect your command, especially, probably more than anything else. And I think his command, he's not hitting his spots, but he doesn't feel like he has that fighter pilot mentality right now. He doesn't feel, I mean, there was a lot of debate today, like, why is he still in there? I think he was low. It looked like he was doing it was low impact work on the bump. And I think Lewis was just like, let him go. And he probably wanted to go and get some work in and maybe throw out of this a little bit. It didn't really work out for him. He got lit a little bit, but I think that's part of it. He's just trying to work through whatever's going on mentally. Maybe it's off the field stuff. Who knows? But it feels like more than anything else right now, it feels it's that between the years an issue.
I think that's a great point between the years too, because you have to remember he had the arbitration hearing beforehand. He wanted the new contract last year, didn't get it, and so this year there's a lot of pressure on him. He wants a big new deal, Scott Moore's client. So I mean, I think that could be another factor too, is because he wanted an extension. The White Sox didn't give it to him, so it's kind of a make or break year for him. You know, you have a bad outing, and it's kind of spiraled from there. So that could be a factor in it as well.
By the way, Mitch, great shirt. You got that.
Thank you. Yeah,
I think that was the day that the Fire Tony chant started against Texas.
Yeah. And Lucas Giolito pitched that game very poorly, I might add. So, perfect fit.
Great callback for just tough. A tough way to go for Lucas Giolito. Obviously a fan favorite for a few years now. I was talking to a buddy how, after his 2019 season, I think he was up there like in the Cy Young race in the AL. Got some votes there, and you always expect the linear rise of like, okay, he does this, the next year he should improve to this, keep getting better and better. But even before, I feel like heading into this season, he had the injury back in April, but it doesn't feel like he has it all there this year. He hasn't had that one good Lucas Giolito, like 12 strikeout game, no walks, dominating the opponent. Mm-hmm. That just seems like from the beginning of the season. He's had times of dominance like that. I think when he came back from the injury against the Twins, I think he did strike out 10 in 4 innings, but it's that sharpness that he's missing. Mm-hmm. Teams are doing a better job of adjusting to him. Mm-hmm. That changeup up, we saw that against Bo Bichette for the Grand Slam on Wednesday, just sitting on, I think it was a 2-0 changeup. It's like, you're not fooling guys with that anymore. A little concerning, but again, I'm with you much. Give him the benefit of the doubt here. He has been good. Maybe it is. Who knows what it is? But that's what I was going to bring.
I am looking at. I am also. Yeah, I was going to say I'm looking at some of his work too when it comes to like he throws a fat 4-seamer, a slider, changeup, curve. Obviously, he only throws a curveball 4.5% of the time, so it's not a big deal. But he's all over the place there. It looks like, Ray Charles went on the shooting range. And then you've got a changeup, which is something he throws 22, 23 at a time. Also, looks like Tony La Russa had a couple beers and went out and shot at the shooting range. There's the one way out of the where it's like, oh no, I wouldn't worry about that little one. Don't worry about that little one right there. If you see Super Troopers, it's legitimately not even close to the zone. So he is all over the place. It looks like with his changeup and his curveball. His slider looks pretty good, but he's still missing down. And it looks like to a lefty, probably the back left foot for a lefty. So he's missing a lot. And it looks like he's throwing a lot to that spot too. He's trying to work down and in way to right. His fastball looks pretty good. I mean, almost all it looks like a Rorschach painting right now, though, because they're so zone. A lot of his pitches, he is missing that poorly. With his command. So the command obviously is an issue. I don't think it's the sticky stuff because he didn't have that. If it's not moving as much or it's moving too much, he's overcompensating because his barrel percentage is in doubles. The barrel percentage is in double digits for the first time in his career. In fact, the worst of his career was 9.4. This year is 12.3% of the balls that are put in play are barreled up. Last year was 7. In 2020, it was 5.6. So he's not missing barrels, and I'm not sure if the movement's too much and he's having a hard time locating, or if it's not moving as much and they're seeing it better. And I don't know, he's going to have to make some adjustments with his delivery too to hide the baseball maybe a little longer.
Maybe it's those new balls. And what was that story that came out? Was it this week that they're changing the protocols now? And what are they doing they're mudding the balls? They're getting them nice and dirty.
The greatest press release in baseball history. Because literally they say the word muddy balls at least half a dozen times. And I'm 5 years old and I'm like, ooh, muddy balls. But it sounds like, they're going to try and have some sort of uniform system in place for the rubbing of the balls. Rubbing up. And it sounds like they're going to probably, maybe I read that wrong, but I read that as they're going to have to rub them up the day of the game before they put them in the humidor for the game. Not that they're going to rub them up like 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks before the game is. I mean, because the biggest problem these guys have is these muddy baseballs are rubbed up. They're rubbed up differently. They get in the they put them in the bag like 10, 12 at a time. As they dry up, that mud no longer is mud. It turns to dust. And so all of a sudden now it's harder to grip the baseball if you can't lick your fingers or touch your sweat or whatever. So, when these guys are, a lot of the times these guys are wiping their arms and they're touching their forehead and using a little bit of suntan lotion, sunscreen or whatever. It's because that baseball is now like a skull that you pulled out of like the ground. It's like Yorick from Hamlet. You just popped his skull out of the ground. It's dusty and gross. And it's hard to grip. So, wetting it back down again at least reactivates the mud that was rubbed into it. So you get at least a little bit better grip. And that's part of the thing that we were talking about last year when they made some of these rule changes. With the stupid, the sunscreen stuff is just dumb. It's just let them do it. It's not making anything any less effective. It's making it less safe. And I think that now because the guy at Seattle got dosed in the head. And this is why they've changed the rules in the first town. And so, I mean, you got to start paying these clubhouse attendants a little bit more, though, too, because their job just got a little bit more important. Because they wrote, literally, this is what they write. After reviewing videos of clubhouse attendants from around the league, officials found a wide variety of muddying techniques. The proper technique, this again, you want to get muddy balls, you're right. The proper technique involves painting the full surface of the ball with mud using 2 fingertips. Then comes a very precise rubbing motion with the ball in between both hands to get the mud into the pores of the leather. Muddying each ball is a 30 to 40 second process. And I can actually attest to that. That's pretty true. I mean, what? Oh, huh?
All right.
It's really sexual.
So the White Sox cannot. Who jinxed the White Sox, guys? Because Tim Anderson returned this week from his injury right away. I just got on base, scored very first game. Played very well against the Blue Jays. White Sox took 2 out of 3, lost game 3 on Wednesday. They also had a few injuries. Danny Mendick colliding with Adam Hazley down the, am I saying that right? Hazley?
Yeah.
Hazley down the left field line. Danny Mendick is helped off the field. He was no weight on his right leg, I believe. He's getting an MRI. Right now, I guess best case scenario, you're saying maybe it's just a knee bruise. But man, how would that suck if he's the next guy who goes on the injured list?
Well, it's weird now that Danny Mendick's become like an integral part of the team, the way he's been playing at second base. But Josh Harrison picked a good time to start heating up. Because I think we were all, at least I was a couple weeks ago, that I would be completely fine with them DFAing him, especially the way with Mendick's playing. But Harrison, he's a veteran. He's starting to kind of figure it out. I think that home run gave him a lot of confidence, but he was sneakily hitting pretty well the weeks prior to that. I think of over his last 7, he's batting over 300. So, he knows how to hit, talent there now. I think he's starting to play with some of that swagger that we saw back in his like all-star days. So I think that's going to help. So we'll see how long Mendick's out. But with the way Harrison's been playing as of late, maybe he's got some confidence. Tony La Russa still trust him. So I think they'll be able to weather that storm. Fingers crossed though. But it always seems like there's an injury. Like White Sox can't have nice things. Just like when it looks like the band's getting back together. It was like one game was great. We beat the Blue Jays. And then of course it all falls apart 2 games later.
Yeah, and Kevin, yeah, I mean, you've been on the recently on giving Josh Harrison another shot here, not giving up on him. Good timing on that, Kevin.
I was right. Like, I mean, maybe look smart. It was just kind of like I woke up on a Tuesday, I think, and I saw someone getting shit on. I'm like, hey, why is he getting shit on? Why? Hey, dude's hitting like 330 in June. He's actually playing pretty well because he looks terrible at the plate. He has such bad at bats that you would not actually think that he's hitting. He's got his OPS is almost 800 in the month of June. You would think that watching some of those at bats where he might as well go up there with a plunger or put an eye patch over both eyes because he looks so bad. He's just swinging his shit like a farmer in the dirt. And then you look at the numbers and he's been quietly consistent and game-winning RBI. I mean, it's a game-changing home run days ago before that against the Blue Jays. I mean, I don't know. He's a hot hand. You ride him till he's not. So that's at least a nice part for what the White Sox. And they're his offensive production in that 9 holes is extremely valuable. I mean, they're putting up runs, which is good because that's something they really struggled with. Now there's the pitching staff needs to kind of tighten it up a little bit.
His defense has been really solid too.
Oh,
That play he made at second base the other night was
insane.
It was really nice. And then he made that play. I think it was late in the game. I think it was either the 9th inning or extras. He ranging over his shoulder, made a really nice catch there too. But the last 7 games, he's hitting 370, 433 OBP, and 41 slugging. I mean, the slugging, he's not a big slugging guy, but 370 over the last week is pretty good. And even over his last 30, he's hitting 256. He was hitting that for the full year. I mean, we'll take that. So,
especially considering he's kind of in that spot where Moncada would normally be, and Moncada struggled so much, but now that he's out, you're actually getting a bat that's 100 points better in the lineup, not feeling the pressure to keep banging your head against the wall with Moncada until he comes back and figures it back out and gets 100%.
Which is good too. I'm glad because Dallas Keuchel was a guy it was hard to root for. Like when he got DFA'd, it was good riddance with him. I didn't want to even when I was saying if we had to get rid of a guy when Jimenez returns, Harrison be that guy. I mean, he didn't want to get rid of Josh Harrison. He seems like a good clubhouse guy. I mean, it's hard to. I'm glad he's turning it around because he's an easy guy to root for. So I'm glad it's starting. He's starting to heat up a little bit.
Is he turning into this season's? Who was it last year for the Sox? The outfielder.
Billy Hamilton?
Billy Hamilton. He's turning into this year's.
Ooh, that's tough. Billy Hamilton was a cult classic. He's a cult hero. I don't know. I don't think he's a Billy Hamilton level yet.
He's just getting started though. His last interview was great. They're like, this is the first walk-off since blank and blank. 3 years. It's 4 years ago. His interview was great after the game yesterday. I thought it showed off. He looked like he was having a little fun. And again, when guys are having fun, it's contagious. And again, that was a tough stretch for the White Sox, and they played well. I mean, they split. In essence, they split with Houston and the Blue Jays, 2 playoff teams, and that right there is a solid. They lost 2 of 3 to Houston. They win 2 of 3 with the team that just swept them 3 weeks ago. Yeah, that's positive. Now you get to what? Is it Baltimore?
Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Next,
yeah. So off on Baltimore. Hopefully, that's a good thing.
Yeah. And the Twins
I did want
to come back down to earth too, which is nice.
Well, they play Cleveland a ton over the next couple of weeks. So, as Sox fans, do you think that? I mean, I personally would probably be rooting for them to split up 50% right down the middle, go 500 against each other. I mean, is that what you would want? What's your ideal with those 2 guys going head to head a ton over the next couple of weeks?
Oh, I agree. To beat up each other, both of them go 500. Snow can get a big lead, and then I think we got the Twins. The first series is the 4th in 2 weeks or so. So they just keep playing 500 ball against each other. Then we got the Twins. We take 2 or 3 there, and we're right back in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I did want to ask you, Mitch. Back in 2020, Zoe's notoriously recorded saying on this very podcast that he did not sweat Cleveland. What do you make of this Cleveland team? Because obviously the Minnesota Twins are the team that started off hot this year in the AL Central. They built up the lead, and now Cleveland's caught them. I think entering Wednesday they were tied first place in the division. So what do you make of Cleveland? Do you think that they can sustain their success?
No. Overachieving team. You take Jose Ramirez off them. What are they? I think they're the beneficiaries of a really bad division, and they're just playing well right now, but that's an overachieving team that'll come back down to earth. I'm not worried about either of these teams as of right. Even when they were 5 games under, I would still bet the White Sox to win the division. They're clearly the most talented in over 162 games. It'll even out, so I'm not worried about either of them. Now, playoffs is what I'm worried about. Because at this point, the division doesn't really matter. We've already had 2 first-round exits. You gotta make some noise in the playoffs, and that's what's concerning me. I don't think the White Sox can as of right now, but as far as winning the division, I think it might be ugly, but they'll win the division. It's the playoffs I'm more worried about.
Which is great. I looked at it today. What is it? The record against playoff teams, I think, after today was 14-17, or is it 17 or 16-19? It was 3 games under 500 only. So it's actually pretty solid, which is what you want to do. You want to really split with the good teams in a regular season, and then just take care of the crap teams, which they haven't done. That's where they've actually struggled, I think, more is they've not done well against crap teams.
Their road record's really good this year, too. It's at home. They've been playing pretty poorly, which, they figure that out. Because that was their big issue last year. They couldn't beat good teams, and they couldn't win on the road. They're actually almost an exact replica of the Chicago Bulls from this season. If you look at it, added some free agents, both Jerry Reinsdorf owned teams. But key guys got hurt. They could not win on the road. And down the stretch, it showed because they couldn't beat good teams. And it was early first-round exit. They were the dead ringer for the Bulls last year.
Yeah, the White Sox are currently 33-34, 15-18 at home, and 18 and 16 on the road. I was going to ask you guys. I was looking over their schedule for the past month or so, and yes, they've had the injury, so obviously that's why they just haven't had any consistency really. They just can't. Talking about the White Sox, they just can't get like over that 500 hump. They keep teetering over, like they're right at it. And like this was a perfect example. If they're playing great against Toronto, they blow the game on Tuesday late, but then they come back. They're going back and forth. They win in extra innings. You're feeling good. You have Giolito on the bump, and despite the struggles, like you still feel kind of good when he's pitching for you. They lose that. They have a couple injuries. So that's why I'm looking ahead at their schedule the next week. So they're playing 4 against Baltimore, and then they go on the road. They have 3 against the Angels. The Angels started off hot, but they've been garbage ever since like April. The White Sox, this is the time that they need to take advantage. Like they need to go 5-2, 6-1. They need to.
They better win 5 of the 7 games.
Like, but how much confidence do you have that they will?
That's the thing. In theory, they should, but just the way they've been playing, it's tough. I think they'll probably, maybe the way they need to win. I think they should win 5. They'll probably win like 4, and it'll be ugly, and they'll blow a lead in 1, most likely. That's probably what's gonna happen. But they should. And Tony La Russa brought this up the other day. They all 5 starters you have confidence in. There's not a weak link in the rotation anymore, despite the fact Giolito's pitching poorly, which I get. But like, it's still a former All-Star, Cy Young caliber pitcher. You just got to figure it out. But like all 5 guys, you have confidence that you throw them in, and you're going to be in good shape. I would argue.
I'll say this though: if I'm Tony La Russa, I don't let Johnny Cueto see another National League team all season.
Maybe
he is dynamically different against National League teams versus American League teams because they've never seen him before. He's a National Leaguer by career. So a guy like
that is a good point. I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
he hasn't looked great against National League teams. I mean, the Dodgers lit him up. They were like, "Hey, I see you. We saw you like 6 times a year, bro." And so I think that's a big part of it. But I just wanted to kind of interject with that because I do feel Cueto's the only thing about Cueto is I would not throw him against a National League team. That's it.
Lucky for Cueto, there's only 2 National League teams on the schedule in July. One of them happened to be San Francisco, and hopefully he doesn't face them because that could be ugly. That could be one. Hammer the over on that one.
That's the one National League team that never got to face him because he was with them. So
that's true. But at the same time, you see him in batting practice during spring a little bit.
Doing some of the
go both ways.
Live pens.
Yeah.
I was going to say quickly, the other injury or the major injury for the White Sox on Wednesday was Adam Engel. That one sounds a little more serious. It was the hamstring. Tony La Russa saying that is a cause of concern. It's the same injury that he had.
It's the annual Adam Engel hamstring.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so how frustrating is that? Because like you always hear like, oh, if Adam Engel could just stay healthy. But at some point, that just becomes part of the player you are.
Yeah, and I would say it's frustrating, but we have like our annual Eloy injury at this point, and then a star player like Robert gets hurt. Kopech has problems when he's like that. There's so many guys that get hurt. You're almost like numb to it at this point.
Did Eloy hit a jack tonight?
Say that again?
Did Eloy hit a jack tonight?
He might have. I know he had a couple knocks the other day.
Let's see here. He looks like he strafed it to right. No, I just hit it off. He hit a hard ball off the right field wall. Very nice.
I'm glad that it's resumed. Rick Hahn has resumed the rehab assignment there because that was kind of wonky going on.
Is there any timetable? Have they put any timetable for Eloy this time around?
I did not see anything. I'm sure it'll be another month or so.
Because I was going to ask. I was going to set the over-under. I was going to say All-Star break, but that seems too far away. That's like a month away. I mean, he has to be back before then, right?
Initially, I think they said initially, before the pause, they expected him to be back for the Twins series around the 4th. So hopefully that's still the timeline, but maybe it's pushed even longer because they had that break in between. So we'll see.
Here you go real quick. And watch the dance at the end, by the way.
Oh, what is that message?
First, with a long pause at the end of May, trying to ease him back in. They'll poke one down the right field line. Granberg moving over, and that one's going to hit off the Worcester wall. Jimenez, as we have said, taking it easy on the bases, not going to test it. So we'll hold up the first with a long 2-out single.
So looks like he's having a little fun there.
I this isn't the old man yelling at clouds, but Eloy, you can't be dancing around the bases when you have your injury history. I thought he was about to bounce off and sprain his ankle.
Yeah, he's gonna have a tough time receiving workers' comp for that one too. I was just waiting for. Yeah, no, that's. I was waiting for something to happen. Yeah.
Slips, falls,
Slips.
hyperextends his elbow.
Mitch, as a Sox fan, do you get queasy? Do you ever think ahead, like a couple of years? Not even this or not even this postseason, but just a couple of years ahead, looking at Giolito, looking at his contract he's going to be a free agent after 2024 or 2023, and be like, fuck, like is this team good enough?
Yeah, it's tough because there was so many years watching the Yolmer Sanchez's of the world, like waiting to get to this moment where we have a competitive team that I'm trying to enjoy it. But because they've been so mediocre this season, like it does, like you look at it, it's like, man, it seems like this is the window and we are not taking advantage of it. And then by the time we need to they realize it, it's going to be too late because all these guys are going to leave. So yeah, I mean, it is kind of a concern because it seems like the window is now. Like this should be the year you're spending money trying to add that last piece. And what did they do? They brought in Josh Harrison from the bargain bin, and yeah, this is what we're getting. So
Bargain bin. That's like the super. Like they found Excalibur
honestly
in a dumpster.
So again, these next 7 games, because again, the White Sox are right there. They've been playing. Their offense has been great lately. Obviously, they had even the game on Wednesday that they lost. They didn't just lay down and die. They came back a little, had a chance to tie it in the 8th, having the bases loaded. But then Lurie Garcia came up. I tuned into the game during that situation when Lurie Garcia comes up, and he was only in the game because of the injuries. And Steve Stone's like, yeah, he's had 3 at bats. He's 0 for 3. Just zero confidence that Lurie Garcia was going to come through, and yeah, he grounded out to second base. But yeah, no, the next 7 games, the White Sox, if this is the time. Like I know it is a weak division. As bad as the White Sox played, they're only 4 games back, 4.5 games back. They should probably still be the favorites. They have the most talent, but at the same time, we're a week away from July. You can't just be playing at below 500 ball and expect to again, it's the whole confidence level.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things that I'm concerned about, non-injury related, is the fact the bullpen, which they spent a lot of money on, it seems like they're overworked because the starters are only averaging 5 innings a start. Cueto's the only guy that consistently, he's gone 6 every one of his starts, 6+. He's the only guy that's consistently okay, he's going to get us to the 6th inning. A lot of these others guys, like Dylan Cease, he's going to be solid through 4, and then the 5th inning, it's roll the dice. We'll see what happens. Luckily, it went our way yesterday, but they're not going deep into games. And if your bullpen has to cover 4 innings, that adds up in October. I'm a little concerned, especially because they already have so many injuries. And we spent a lot of money on that bullpen, and now they're all going to be tired and injured heading into October. It's not a winning formula. The starters got to start going deeper into game.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we saw that in the extra inning games when you had the Martin guy come in pitching in a high leverage situation. Vince Velasquez was pitching in extra innings because you have to rest guys because you know that you have to rely on them 5 out of 7 games a week.
And that always we burn all of our good, Joe Kelly, Kendall Graveman. They'll come in one game and all right, we got the elite line. And then the next game, for some reason, none of these guys can throw back-to-back days. We're paying Kendall Graveman all this money. He throws 14 pitches. Well, no, he's not available today. So we're bringing Davis Martin in and Jimmy Lambert in key situations. Terrible.
We're at that point where all these dudes are sore as hell. They are begging for that All-Star game. These guys are gutting it right now. It's actually that time of year. Late June, early July, these guys their bodies are ready for the break. So, I mean, you almost have to, the bounce back and recovery time for a guy, might be 2 or 3 days, right now. And obviously you want them stronger for the stretch run. So better to burn them out in August, October, September, than burn them out in June, July. So you can kind of make, I'm a friend of the show, Chase and Shreve. I mean, I was talking to him. He had a rough night last night, and he's just like before the game, we were texting and he's like, I'm just sore. Like just everybody's sore. And so I'm like, that makes sense because, you're at that point where your body's, they're familiar with the routine and they're almost to the, that little break where they can actually like go home and just for a couple days, let their body heal naturally without having to even put it through any kind of physical exertion at all.
You brought up Dylan Cease, Mitch, and what did he have? Like 11 strikeouts?
Yeah, tied a career high, 11 yesterday.
Outside of White Sox fans who absolutely cheer for Dylan Cease, I am the most frustrated seeing his starts as a better for him to lead Major League Baseball in strikeouts this year because I do believe he has the highest strikeouts per 9 innings. But like you said, he's only going like 5 or 6 innings every start, and I'm like, guy, come on now. I need that extra inning out of you. I need those extra couple strikeouts every start from you, but he just gets burned out by the 5th or 6th.
You could tell very early on too whether it's going to be a good Dylan Cease start if he's like locating his fastball. Once it starts like leaking up in the zone and he's missing high a bunch, it's like, here comes another 4-inning start. So like he always has the stuff to rack up strikeouts, but I think a lot of times too you'll see him like nibble when he gets ahead 0-2, and then it'll turn into like 3-2 before he like gets the case. So like it racks up. I think he's just got to learn how to be a little bit more efficient with his pitches because he tends to nibble and he lacks control at times.
Also, Dylan Cease this year has been the master of, allowing like 3 to 4 runs, but they're all unearned, which again, not his fault in some situations because there are errors made behind him. But I was looking at his numbers. I'm like, Dylan Cease hasn't been like this great. Why is his ERA already like 2 back down? I'm like, all right, like he had a stretch of like 12 straight runs that he gave up were unearned in 4 starts.
He's only had one like awful start, and that was against Boston. Because a lot of it's like 5 innings, 3-1 type stuff. But I will say this for Dylan Cease. I think his slider might be the best pitch on the White Sox staff. Like that thing is filthy. He had 20 swings and misses yesterday, 18 came on the slider. Like that is one of the most underrated pitches in baseball. It is filthy. I think last I saw had the second highest spin rate in baseball too for a slider. So that thing's filthy. That's one of the better pitches they have.
Mitch, watching that game, how do you feel? I mean, it was both sides, but there was some, like, obviously Dylan Cease got a lot of calls. When you're watching a game where the umpire is absolutely awful, like, how do you even process what's going on? Because obviously we all hate when umpires miss call against our teams, but but that's the thing. These were like beyond bad calls because like the strike zone did not exist.
Yeah. Well, the biggest thing is consistency. Now I'm a little bit more lenient with umpires because I used to travel games back in the day for extra cash.
Boo! No,
having all those parents yell at you, it's like,
I can't, Mitch. I apologize for all those douchebags.
It's brutal.
It's awful. Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is consistency. The other night they just wasn't consistent, and so like that's your biggest complaint is especially as like a hitter, you can't figure out where the strike zone is. Like, well, that was called a strike last at bat. That's where it gets the most frustrating. But I mean, they ended up winning, so I mean, I can't complain too much. All the call, I mean, a lot of it was bad and it was in our favor. So it's like, what are you gonna do? I mean, I'll take it.
I'm looking at Dylan Cease. His vertical movement on his 4-seam fastball is actually better than his vertical movement on his slider.
That's insane.
Yeah,
I mean, that to me is just, and like the horizontal movement, obviously there's a huge difference with the horizontal because obviously you're going left to right or right to left. Well, for him, right to left. But even that is at a really, really low rate. I mean, that's going to be in the negative regardless because it's a fastball, it's flat. But wow, that's interesting to say the least.
Oh, by the way,
Ball's moving up or down, depending.
There is a great article from Sox on 35th Street last week talking about the possibility. This is all hypothetical. They laid it out perfectly how the chances are very low, but they had the premise of if the Miami Marlins ever made Jazz Chisholm, available via trade, what would it take for the Sox? You can go read it on Sox on 35th. And then I think Josh Nelson asked our guy, Matt Zawoski at Southside Zoo in Delaware, asked him on Twitter, would you trade? It would take a lot more, but like the main piece would be, would you trade Eloy Jimenez for Jazz Chisholm? So I'll open it to the floor. Would you do that trade? Or I'll rephrase it. Because again, it's complicated because it would have to take a lot more because you have to factor in Chisholm still being pre-arb and Eloy's contract and stuff like that. If you could have one of those two players, who would you prefer on your team? Eloy Jimenez or Jazz Chisholm?
Eloy Jimenez. Now, mind you, the injury thing stinks, but I think just like needs. Eloy, we got locked up for a long time, and the health thing is a big if at this point. But there's so much talent and power there, and I think we got other needs. And as a Danny Mendick truther, I'm confident that he can man down the fort until we get Colson Montgomery, Gilbert Sanchez up here. So I mean, I think I would make the trade. I'm not as high on Jazz Chisholm as everyone else is. I think if we were gonna make a trade, I would add another arm.
I would slash your tires if you tried to drive him to the airport. So that's not. I wouldn't let you trade him. No, do not.
Zoe's been on he's been on the Jazz high for.
Jazz gives off the look at the way he plays the game vibe to me right now.
He's just the new flavor of the
month. A little bit. The hype is really kind of like. But what is it like watching that dude play every single day? What kind of player? I don't know. Because I don't watch the Marlins. I mean, pretty much nobody watches the Marlins. So I don't know how that guy carries himself, 1 through 9, the entire ball game in between pitches. He might have these moments where you're like, cat, damn, this guy's talented. But what is he in the clubhouse? What is his reputation? It doesn't sound like anybody there really likes him. Do you really want to throw someone in the clubhouse that's going to be as volatile as that? Or do you think somehow throwing a guy that basically is hated by all his teammates in Miami are going to be like, hey, I turned over a new leaf here. He's going to get what he wants. He gets out. And when he's not happy there, he's going to, throw a hand grenade wherever he's at. And that concerns me more than anything. Whereas Eloy is a clubhouse guy. You've got a dude that picks up the clay. He's a funny big baby. I mean, he's out there dancing on the bags tonight. That's great. I mean, that's what he is. I mean, yeah, it drives you nuts, and his injury stuff is a question mark. But I don't know. I'm not selling him for a guy that I'm not sold on as a good teammate. And in a championship locker room, that does matter. It doesn't matter when you're in a shit bag, when you're dead last like Miami or.
I do think the whole Jazz Chisholm team meeting stuff. I mean, I don't like you said, Kevin. I'm not watching a lot of Miami Marlins games this year or any year, but that's like a team of the majority of that roster are like 33, 34, 35-year-old veterans who aren't that good anymore. Who I think maybe are like, hey, kid, what the fuck are you doing? Like you said, maybe, hey, we all know that baseball and sports is a culture, especially baseball. There is a culture there where you don't act. Veteran guys don't like if you act a certain way. We can clearly see Jazz Chisholm is a unique personality where he doesn't really give a shit what other people think. He'll do it whatever he wants. And I think that was a little overblown. With the White Sox, I mean, most of the core is young guys. Yeah, there are veterans. There's Jose Abreu, it's Grandal on the pitching staff. There's Lynn. But why do those guys mostly get along? They're younger guys. They're younger guys, similar age, came up together. I do agree with you. I think the Jazz Chisholm hype train has, I think, been overblown a lot this year. I was looking at his numbers. I mean, for a team that, the White Sox that need more guys to get on base, Jazz Chisholm has like a barely 300 on base percentage.
I feel like he can't hit lefties either.
Can't hit lefties. Yeah.
He feels
like
like
the new flavor of the month.
Yeah.
Last year was Adam Frazier, and look what Adam Frazier is this year. I'm so glad we didn't give assets.
Oh man, you're speaking right, you're barking right up Zoe's tree, Mitch. Another Zoe guy, Adam Frazier.
This is why you go fishing, Zoe. You leave the house. When the cat's away, the mice will talk about players that you like. Joe also told me that I have a big dump in my pants, so he's very angry. But his description of why he likes Jazz is Javi is a great defender, sucks ass versus lefties, has fun. I think that's really where you could go with that. You could change out Jazz and Javi, and I think it's a culture thing, and with the Cubs and the Cubs clubhouse, Sox club. I mean, you could really. I mean, that's what it feels like. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I get a bad vibe from based on the stuff that you're seeing that's kind of coming out of That, which is bad for the clubhouse too, because that shit should be handled in house. We shouldn't have known about a players. We should never have known about a players only meeting. That's not cool that leaks out either. So unless Jazz, maybe Jazz leaked it too. I don't know. Loose lips in the clubhouse. Who do we know is leaking? Was it beneficial for him, for everyone to see? Oh no, poor me. They're ostracizing me, or was it this guy's such a dick that I don't even give a shit? We don't like him, and we all came together to say that. Like, I mean, it's. Is it worth it? Is it worth it for this locker room, for this run during this window?
People tell you who they are. Believe them. Jazz is telling everyone, I am a locker room cancer. Like, it's just like where there's smoke, there's fire. Like, everything surrounding him, it just screams the locker room problem. Yeah, especially for the talent he is. Like, it'd be one thing. The numbers just don't jump off the page to roll the dice on that, especially giving up someone like Eloy Jimenez.
How many wins a year? How many wins in 162 and in a postseason is going to really make up? And that's the question: that's value versus locker room effect. That's will he make up that many games in the win column compared to where they're currently at? Or if they went with, say, like someone mentioned Castillo from the Reds, who are truly selling and probably selling for not much. Is that a better option? Castillo, totally different reputation. He's got a good reputation as a good teammate. He's good bat, speedy, causes some havoc. He's a fun guy to play. He'd be a really good guy in the bottom, or maybe like the 8 or 9, probably the 9. And you could pair that up with Tim Anderson. I mean, that's solid too. I think that's a better one to go after than I think Jazz. Better option.
The other thing I was like, I mean, what's the depth behind outfield depth behind Eloy Jimenez for the White Sox? I mean, I know there's what's his face, Cespedes,
Oscar
Colas,
mm-hmm.
But it's like, after this year, AJ Pollock he's going to be a free agent, right?
I believe he has an option.
Or does he have an option? Okay, so I mean that's still an option. But obviously Luis Robert's going to be in center field. Then you have Andrew Vaughn. Do you want to keep? Oh, let's switch that. Let's switch to something positive. But I agree with you guys. I was that was the other thing. I was shocked by the results. It was like 66-34% saying trade Eloy for Chisholm, and I was like, whoa! And it was like this was like over 300 votes on Zoe's poll last week. Very shocked, and I get it. It's because it's annoying because the injuries, the type of injuries that Eloy Jimenez has sustained, like his own fault doing dumb stuff in the outfield, coming off a disappointing, few months in 2021 as well. But I was very surprised how, at least it seems, a portion of Sox fans are now feeling about Eloy Jimenez. But let's talk about Andrew Vaughn, Kevin, your guy since day one, since pre-draft, the best number 9 hitter in MLB history, probably. I still can't get over that. I'm sorry.
AJ Pollock is signed till 2024. By the way,
he's got an opt-out.
That's when he's a free agent.
He's got an opt-out after this season, though.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, he's got an opt-out, and he gets a $5 million buyout if his option escalates. I think after like 400 at bats, 450, 500, he ain't gonna get there. So
he might. I mean, who knows? We have the injuries keep racking up. He's going to be the only outfielder healthy. He spent time on that injured list too. So
Which
Andrew
is funny,
Vaughn
in LA, they nicknamed him Bird Bones. I was asking a bunch of the guys in ESPN about what they thought of the trade when they got Kimbrel, and they were all excited about Kimbrel. I was like, all right, good luck with that. And I was asking them about Pollock, and they're like, you're getting a very good defender. He's going to hit, but he's always hurt. His nickname is Bird Bones around here. And I was like, he'll fit right in the box. So.
All right.
Actually, relatively speaking, he's been pretty healthy this year. So fingers crossed. He's been a lot healthier than he has in year past.
Yeah, so far. So Kevin, and I mean, just speak poetry about Andrew Vaughn, and his last couple of weeks have been just a tremendous pace.
Well, going in today, we go 2 for 4 today. So he's at the point right now in his season where if he doesn't get 2 hits, his batting average is dropping. That's pretty awesome. But he, in the month of June, 5th best in baseball, 389 average with a 444 on base percentage. 22 of his 28 hits are singles, 17 games. He's just getting it done up and down. I mean, he's hitting 330, somewhere around that ballpark right now. Anthony Rizzo just hit a home run, by the way. Sorry. Where is he at? Let's see.
Alfonso Rivas just hit a grand slam. Even better. How about that?
Ooh. Or does that say Rivas? Oh, yeah. I missed it. I thought that said Rizzo.
What do you have Yankees notifications on, Kevin?
Oh, I have problems. Yeah. Are they playing the Rockies? Yeah, he's at 333 right now with 31 RBI, 7 homers. I mean, the dude's playing great. He's what we talked about on this show, which is what he came up with. He came up, he's hitting righties finally, and that's part of the adjustment period. But this is the thing that we talked about on the show. He's a mature, polished, collegiate, adult hitter. So that's what gave his value. I think I said, burn the house down if the White Sox pass on Andrew Vaughn in that draft. And the fact is, he comes up and he has great at bats. He literally learned to hit. And he learned to be a major league hitter while hitting at the major league level. And if that doesn't give you pause as the kind of character and mental toughness the kid has, it also is just a testament to the kind of phenomenal work and hand-eye coordination and adjustment and just mature, just everything about him. The fact that he learned to be a major league hitter while playing at the major league level. He didn't, what did he get, like 130 at bats?
And learning how to play an entirely new position that he hadn't even played in high school.
The guy, he played second base today. I mean, he's been all over the place. And to do that, and yes, and I know, although you're making fun of the 9-hitter stuff, Tony La Russa, say what you want about all the other stuff. You cannot criticize how Tony La Russa has developed Andrew Vaughn. It feels like he has done a perfect job with just one player. It's not everybody. It doesn't have to be all the other players, but how he's handled Vaughn, pulling him. Everyone used to remember how pissed off everyone would get because he'd like play and then he'd sit for like 2 or 3 days and then he'd play again. He was trying to teach a guy in the midst of a competitive window how to be a major league hitter at the major league level out of necessity. And Andrew Vaughn developed in the midst of that chaos with his hair on fire. That tells me what kind of a person, as a human being and an athlete, that Andrew Vaughn is, which tells me that his struggles, whenever those may come as a player, will always be things that he makes up for, adapts to, and finds a way to outwork the issue because he's going to continue to evolve as a hitter. This is just the beginning. He's going to continue to grow. And this is, guys like this get better. His stats at his age, with his amount of plate appearances, is on pace with Vlad Guerrero. I mean, think about that for a second. One of the most marketable players in the entire game right now, the Incredible Hulk of baseball. And Andrew Vaughn has started out with just as good or better stats than him in the first, what was it? Well, how many was it? Was it 165 games, Zoe, or something like that? Or I can't remember. He pulled up the numbers today in the chat, but it's insane. It's insane.
The biggest thing, and you touched on it, is he figured out how to hit righties, which you knew he would because he's a professional hitter. Like, you could tell when he came up. Like, he only had 55 minor league games under his belt, and like you said, he's learning on the fly. So with an off season to work on it, now he's shown he's not like a platoon player anymore. But he's been crushing righties. 6 out of his 7 home runs this year have come against righties. He's hitting .318 against right-handers, and he's got an .871 OPS. So like that was his biggest improvement this year. Is he figure out how to hit right-handers, which is why you're seeing the numbers jump. But he should be an all-star. If you're looking at all the guys in the White Sox right now, one of the biggest bright spot has been Andrew Vaughn, I think. And on a team that's really underperformed, he would be the front runner for me to be an all-star for him this year. He's been that good.
Oh, he's been absolutely incredible. And yes, here are the numbers, Kevin, that you brought up. This was during the swap meet that the White Sox broadcast does, brought to you by Christopher Camp. And it was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Andrew Vaughn first 176 games. Batting average, Vlad 261, Andrew Vaughn 263, runs 79 to 78, doubles 36 to 34, home runs the same, both with 22, RBIs 94 to 79, on base percentage 331, 330, and slugging percentage 426 to 429 for Andrew Vaughn. Incredible. And what was the other comp that you had, Kevin? I think you brought it up when was Tuesday night, maybe?
Was it Alonso?
Yeah, no, that you said a better hitting version of Pete Alonso.
It's crazy too with Vaughn. I had an article about him on Sports Mockery heading into Monday's game, but like 2 stats that like really jumped out at me. On the road, he owns the best batting average in the league with 408, and the next closest was Bryce Harper at 379. So it's a healthy margin. And then the second time facing a starter, he's batting 487 this year. So he's able to make adjustments on the fly, and he's able to hit in hostile role environments. That just shows you he's a mature hitter, and he knows professional hitter. That's what Andrew Vaughn is.
He's like artificial intelligence. He's like the Terminator. He's learning every time he sees someone. Like in what is it? Civil War, Captain America. Civil War or whatever in Marvel. That when Captain America is fighting Tony Stark, and then the suit analyzes Tony Stark's analyzes Captain America's fighting style or whatever, and then flips it. That's him. He basically sees everything and then processes it, hits the video, learns, adjusts, and comes back. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be video. Sometimes guys like that, it just registers. The great players remember all of their at bats. I'm certain of that. That a photographic memory in that sense has to have an existence in there because they're just processing so much data at so much, so fast and so at one time. It has to. But
Mitch, heading into the off season again? Maybe an unfair question because we don't know how the season's going to play out. But just think ahead for a little bit to the off season. The White Sox obviously have Andrew Vaughn now, who is breaking out into being the player that smart people thought Kevin thought was going to be. What do you do with Jose? Like, what kind of deal do you work for Jose Abreu? Is it like, are you ready to be like Andrew Vaughn's our future first baseman?
No, you can never have too many good hitters in a line. Well, Jose Abreu, his importance, I think, has helped develop Andrew Vaughn. Andrew Vaughn was talking about what a great teammate he is. And that's what Jose is, a great locker room guy. It's kind of like the Jason Hayward excuse to the Cubs. Well, he's a great locker room guy. The difference is like Andrew Vaughn does produce too. But Jose Abreu, he produces, and he's been doing it ever since he's been in the league. And until he stops showing me that he can produce, that I'd put him out there. I mean, Abreu's put in his time where he's deserved that extra year or the benefit of the doubt or that extra contract with the White Sox just because of all what he's done. He's like a 10-year first baseman at this point. His fielding's still excellent. Vaughn, I mean, he's a below average defender. I think he is a sufficient outfielder to this point where you can put him out there and you're confident in what he's able to do. And he's still hitting at a high level when he's out there. So I'd keep it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. There's spots you can put Andrew Vaughn. He's showing he's versatile. I would keep Jose Abreu at first base until he shows me that he can't hit anymore.
By the way, hats off to Jose Abreu, who it's like he's going back to his prime. I think he's having his best year, like best walk rate, not chasing as many pitches, obviously leading to that, still hitting the ball hard.
Yeah.
And this is something that was always one of the biggest criticisms for Abreu. Like, yeah, he would hit like, 280, 290, but his on-base percentage would be lower just because he wouldn't take walks. And now he's having the best walk rate of his career. So at 35 years old now? Great year for him. And that's going to be an interesting decision, I think, for the White Sox. Again, I think they do bring him back like 100%. They bring back Jose Abreu. Just kind of interesting what that contract would be for him. A guy who is going to be, 35, 36 years old. Who else do you think on the White Sox could be? Obviously, there's Tim Anderson, deserving for an all-star appearance, probably starter. I was going to ask a general question. In sports, obviously, MLB is, I think, the biggest disaster. Are you in or out on fan voting for all-star games?
I only like it when it's like the last chance, like the 4 guys, but otherwise I'm out. Like the 1 year Omar, it was like all Royals and Omar and Fonte almost made it. And that's when I was out. I was like, all right. And he ended up getting DFA'd a couple months later too. And I think he was an all-star that year. So I am out on the fan voting. It was cool in the NHL when John Scott got it. That was the only time I was pro fan vote. But other than that, I think it's like for the last chance guys, it's like, okay, these are the 4 on the bubble. Then I'm fine with that. But for the starters, like Mike Trout shouldn't have gotten in last year. He was hurt.
Yeah.
So I am out on the fan voting.
Kevin, in or out on the fan voting?
I like it to an extent. It's fun. But I mean, the Cubs in 2016 had what? They're in the Royals and you're talking about. So it's fun to see, but you almost got to feel like geographically there's got to be a limit on. We need to create an electoral college of all-star voting. Yeah. Because you get a place like Chicago or New York or LA and they just blow out the ballots and vote. I mean, that the 1 year the Cubs had 20. I mean, there were dudes that had no business on that all-star team in 2016 from the Cubs, but there were how many starters, and it almost burned them because they had to play a road game in the World Series. So, in Game 7. So, like,
That helped them, Kevin.
Right. They got the rain. If they were in Chicago, the rain would never come. So, there we go.
You got to use DH.
That's true. That's right. Schwarb.
That's right.
They were playing. Madden was playing chess while we were playing checkers, I swear. With Mother Nature. And so but it's a cool part of it. The punch cards, Jack. That's great. Yeah. Bring back the punch cards. Those were fun.
All manual voting.
The hanging Chad punch cards. Now maybe if there's a way to do it where the fans get like, I like how they've done in the past, like with what is it? Is it the NFL that does it? Where you get to vote in like the last few people out, but you let the players vote for everything else at that point, and you hate to take the fans out of the equation, but there's got to be a way to like include the fans, but also keep it to the best players in baseball. I don't want to see some seventh dude from like a team that's just running hot that year that's not better than like Mike Trout or something.
Let the fans vote on the hats they wear or something. Then they can feel involved, and then guys aren't getting screwed over on it. Because it also affects like contract time too. Come arbitration, it looks nice when you got All-Star next to your name, but you got screwed over because these assholes from New York are stuffing the ballot with some scrub. Like it's horrible.
I mean, the best part of the All-Star game is the roster that the manager gets to choose.
Yeah,
that one actually does hit, but it's the starters that really goose you. So, yeah. I think we got to take the toy away from the children. I think right now,
and that's the thing, because like it does go beyond just like the year-to-year stuff. Because then as sports fan, we love to debate guys who's better, and then what's the first thing we look at? We look at their baseball reference page. Oh, how many times were they an All-Star? And then you think back, and it's like, well, did they even deserve to be? Then you have to do all this. Well, he was actually good this year. He didn't deserve it this year. It's the same thing with like Gold Glove voting. When Eric Chavez was winning all those Gold Gloves in the 2000s. White Sox. I remember White Sox fans. Their biggest gripe was like, Joe Creedy's better, was always better, but obviously playing, or I don't know, for whatever reason, Eric Chavez just had that reputation, like he would just get the automatic vote for a Gold Glove.
Cub fans would have voted David Bodie in as a third base All-Star. Like,
it's ridiculous. I'm out on, but the other thing is though, see, that's the thing. It does annoy me because it does lead to it affects guys' money. Because teams will be like, well, you didn't make an All-Star, you're not an All-Star level player, whatever. But at the same time, like these All-Star games just don't matter anymore. I kind of did like it when they had, World Series home field. They gave it some spice, I thought. I didn't mind that part.
I was the same way until I realized like the MLB All-Star game is the best All-Star game out of the four major sports because you can't tank in baseball and that looks stupid. Like you're not
not try. Yeah.
Like exactly. Like in the NBA, you can dog it down the court. Same with the NHL, NFL, you're not going to tackle. But it's like, what are you going to intentionally boot a ground ball? Like you're not going to. As a pitcher, you don't want to get lit up. Like so, like they all have pride in like you're actually playing a game where it's not like it's like. I mean, it's an exhibition, but it's not like a cheap exhibition where it looks like a practice. It's like that's why the MLB All-Star Game is the best one, and I found it still watchable despite the fact that there's no World Series home field advantage at stake because all the guys are still trying. So it was still a very good and competitive game.
Yeah, and the other reason I did bring this up is because I've been a fan of Ian Happ through the years. This year it's been his best stretch during his career. I think before or entering this week or whenever the first vote totals came out, which was I think on Monday or Tuesday, at the time Ian Happ has been the second most valuable outfielder in all of the National League behind Mookie Betts. He is nowhere, but despite that, he is nowhere near the top of vote getters for outfielders, which is a shame because again, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that much. But you still want to see your guys who actually deserve a spot get some like recognition here. Ian Happ has been like 290, has a almost 390 on base percentage. He's been great, and then just nothing, like no votes, which is a shame, I think. So moving on to other Cub stuff. Kevin, we keep hearing Jed Hoyer speak.
You want me to play the interview real quick? I got it queued up. I can actually play it.
How long is it?
Let her rip.
About a minute and 14 seconds.
Yeah, let her rip. This is Jed Hoyer, David Kaplan, ESPN 1000.
All right, give me 1 sec. Here we go. And this is from Channel 5 in Chicago. All right.
No, Channel 5. NBC.
Boop.
All right, here we go.
You don't feel like the team has regressed from even last year as far as getting to that next great Cubs team?
I think at this moment in time, I think we're all. This is a frustrating moment in time. Whether we feel that way in a month or in 2 months, I don't know. I think right now, certainly. I mean, listen, I think the frustration that is in your voice is probably the frustration that is in everyone's voice over the way we played. Really, I would say, candidly, like I said, I felt like we were battling and really competing through Friday.
So just to follow to what he's saying, and without necessarily knowing what the timeline is, does it feel further away than it did when the season started?
I think I have a better answer for that later in the season. I think that I don't feel like we've had a chance to really get everyone on the field and playing, and I think I'll have a better feel for that at the end of the season than I do right now. I mean, like I said, I understand why you're asking that question today, but it's probably a question I'll probably answer later in the season. No, I mean, listen, I don't think I'm sugarcoating anything. I think that obviously there's been real frustrations that even when I think we were competing and playing well, we weren't winning the games. We were losing 1-run games, and I think a lot of that, certainly up until Friday, was we just weren't scoring enough. We haven't been able to pull out those games, and so yes, I don't deny that. I think from a record standpoint, even before this stretch, we weren't where we want to be. But I'm not sort of. You're asking me to make some pretty global statements based on that, and I think maybe later in the season that's the right time, but not right now.
With that nice little spot there. But yeah, that
That was from the weekend, I believe, or right before the Braves series. And then he also went on with David Kaplan on ESPN 1000 on Wednesday morning, and there was the, what was that quote that was going around? That his job is to get the next core, the next great Cubs core. I just need Jed Hoyer to stop talking. Ever since like the trade deadline stuff last year, the day after when he was saying, just like lying for no reason, and then getting called out by players like Rizzo, Bryant. I think I noticed that maybe his press conference when he became the president, when he took over for Theo back in, what was it, after 2020 or in 2020? Jed Hoyer is just terrible with the media. I don't know why, because he always, when he was GM, I don't remember any dumb shit like this. Obviously, times were good, Cubs were winning, or they had a set plan, and that's the other big issue here. There's just no set plan that the Cubs have conveyed to their fans, which is the most annoying part. I was talking about it with Kevin right before we started recording, and I brought it up last week too. And I'm going to keep doing this theme because the most frustrating part about every time that Jed Hoyer speaks is you don't get the confidence that they exactly know what direction, what their timeline is. When Theo took over after 2011, came in during the winter, told fans, guys, we're going to suck. We're going to suck for a couple of years. We're rebuilding. We're going to be drafting the top 5, basically. We're going to get those players. We're going to be making moves. We're going to add veteran guys that we can trade away. And you know what? This rebuild, hopefully in a few years, will be good. Obviously, you can argue, is that the right direction that the team should go? Whatever. They did that but as Cubs fans, you weren't entering a season being told, oh, we were trying to compete, which happened throughout the summer last year during the offseason. The letter from Tom Ricketts, ever since they got their fucking new marquee sports network, the money's going to be there. We're going to have the resources to always go after the top guys. We are going to compete in 2022. We're looking to compete. And again, as optimistic as I was optimistic. I didn't think it was going to get this bad. I didn't think it was going to be that good. My optimism was, if a lot of things go right, this is a 500 team. So that's you're still talking at a very low expectation for a fan base, even at the most optimistic point. They have you can say they have the injury excuse. 4 out of their 5 starting pitchers have missed at least 2 weeks. That's not great. Obviously, no team is going to be able to survive that in the first couple months. But again, they put themselves into that position where, okay, you lose 2, 3, 4 guys, and then you have nothing to replace. Nothing. You put guys who maybe aren't ready to get to that point into positions where they have to come up and they don't compete. Like Caleb Killian had all the hype in the world, and deservedly so, because he pitched out of his mind during the Arizona Fall League, was dominant in AAA. He had, some slight issues going deeper into games. And then he comes up. He makes 3 starts. The first one was with the Cardinals. He was pretty decent. And this is last year. You can't throw a strike. Like, what happened? What happened there? The free aging signings for this season were bad. Number one, bad. Daniel Norris has been. I think literally the only reason he's still on the team is because he's left-handed. So shout out to the lefties out there listening. If you could ever, if you ever have children, teach them to throw a ball with their left hand, because even if they're not that good, they'll have great job security if they can ever make it to playing baseball. And then with everything that Jed Hoyer now says, and we're going back and forth with, like, is it a retool? Is it a rebuild? Are they tearing it down? Are they going for it? Now we're just talking about, well, we're going to look for the next great core.
Pavlov's dog right there. That is Pavlov's dog. That's the new catchphrase we're looking for.
The next great core. And I know some fans want to compare it to, like, the, when Theo Epstein rebuilt with Jed Hoyer as GM. And Kevin, you brought it up, in 2012, their very first draft pick, terrible, was Albert Almora Jr. But by 2013, they drafted Chris Bryant, which was no player is a guarantee, but he was pretty much as close to it as you can get. He was going to be a star player. The Cubs knew it. Everyone around baseball knew it for the most part.
I do get a kick out of fans that inadvertently give Theo and Jed credit for drafting Javi, which always cracks me up. That was Jim Hendry.
That's right. That was the last last first rounder from Jim Hendry.
He stuck around for the draft.
I feel like that's the difference between whatever this is. And let's be honest, it's a rebuild. Like, we can see it. Like, it's what it is. They can call whatever they want. It's a rebuild. But that's, I think, would be so frustrating for me, is because back 2014, 13, you could see the pillars in place in the farm system. Like, you would watch the Iowa game and you'd see Chris Bryant hitting bombs. Like, all right, it's coming. And now, like, who's the pillar? Like, they traded all those guys, and there is still no one in that farm system where I'm like, this guy's going to be a face of the franchise down the road. It's just a whole lot of that.
Caleb Killian pitched, they brought him up. That's the guy that they traded. He was supposed to be a pretty good arm. He's 26 or whatever from the Giants with the KB trade. He was really throwing pretty well down in the bushes, and they brought him up, and he has been absolutely horrible. Now he'll be a good. He looks to me like a 3, maybe a 4. So Chris Bryant, his value inherently was for what looks like maybe a dude that in Canario that maybe pans out. Probably not. He's hitting like 2 something there. Low 2s. And you've got Killian, who will be a number 3. So Chris Bryant, an MVP, was traded for a number 3 to save some money. When this trade is all said and done, that's will be what the value will be. And that's good for Killian's solid. I mean, I'm happy to have him as a 3. He'll be a good 3, but he doesn't look ready. He doesn't look. He looks a year away at least, and he was supposed to be the closest, most major league ready prospect in the system, besides Brendan Davis, who's now out for the year after getting hurt.
It's so sad too for an MVP. That's what you get. Like, at least for the White Sox, when we traded like Jose Quintana or Chris Sale, like, you could tell right when they got back, like, okay, like, this guy Kopech, he's gonna be a future piece. And like last year, for like, where's the Rizzo trade? Was there anyone in there where you're like, all right, like, this guy, this is a whole
Kevin Alcantara, he's a freak.
See, that's the thing. That's the problem, though, because
he's only a single.
Like, they do have, obviously, prospects you're hoping for that they work out, right? And like, there's stuff that you can get excited about. But these guys are like 19 years old. Yeah, these guys are 19, 20 years old. Like Caleb Killian, he's like the most MLB ready, which again, they're like 2 bad starts. Fine, whatever. I'm not going to judge an entire guy's future based on 5 bad innings.
And his first cup of coffee too. Like,
yeah, but it's like, the core of our team is like, what are the not every team, but like, what are the position players in your system going to do? Brendan Davis, I don't know if it was the injury that he had, like nerve stuff in his back, and that's what he got the surgery for. Thankfully, that wasn't structural or like any disc issues. But he's basically out the rest of 2022. The first month and a half of him playing, he was really bad, really bad.
He didn't improve.
And again, that is the Cubs' #1 prospect, like a top 15 consensus prospect, like through 3 or 4 publications. Still, you don't know about him. He's not a sure thing. As much as like Cubs fans like him, he's not a sure thing. PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, the guy they got from in the Javier Baez trade with the Mets. I mean, he's been looking great. Yeah, he got promoted up to South Bend. He's 20 years old. Who knows? Owen Casey, he had a slow start. He started to heat up. He was part of the Yu Darvish trade. Again, he's like a 20-year-old guy. These guys at their peak. Ed Howard injured.
#1 draft pick, 2020.
Injured. Yeah. Even the pieces that we thought in the major leagues. Nico Horner is going to be a solid player. He's hit into some bad luck, not too much. He does hit the ball. He is hitting the ball a lot harder this year than he has before. But Nico Horner isn't at the level where he's only taking he has a 2% walk rate. He's not that good of a hitter to just refuse to walk. He has a lower walk rate than Javier Baez. That's not good. And yes, I get it. He's in 280. This is great. His on-base percentage is like barely creeping above 300. Loves defense at multiple positions, but he needs to be better. Nick Madrigal has been injured and he's been bad. I mean, the biggest thing with him, he just needs to stay healthy. And then Christopher Morel had a great 3 weeks and he's come back to earth, which is cool, but it's fine. We never expected this. I'm not going to lie. I saw Christopher Morel one time in spring training. I made a comment about his arm. That's all I knew about him. So this is just a complete brand new surprise, but it's great. You love to see it. You need those guys who pop up out of nowhere who have the tools. But besides that, who else gets you excited, Kevin?
I mean, besides Gary Busey, I think
Ian Happ is their best player. Besides, their best player, Wilson Contreras, is most likely going to get traded within the next month.
Yep. I mean, obviously, Nico makes me happy always. I love watching Nico work, so that's always a pleasure. I'm so tired of the Patrick Wisdom roller coaster, so it's exhausting because it is what it is. He's a guy that shows up 25% of the time, and when he does show up, like today, holy shit, and then he's gone 75% of the time. So it's not commiserate with a winning team. So that's not as fun for me to enjoy. It's fun watching tape measure shots on occasion, but it's like watching a beer league softball player play. It's home run or nothing. So that's not exactly enjoyable. Seiya Suzuki brought a lot of joy. It was great until he got hurt. So that was really fun for that was like, oh, there's one drop on this roller coaster. That's all we get. It was one drop. It was like
you're at Kiddieland. The Cubs are like Kiddieland now.
Yeah,
defunct amusement park from Illinois.
Santa's Village out near Elgin. But obviously Nico it's always enjoyable to watch Nico. I was excited for Killian coming up. It's been fun watching Wilson play, and I mentioned this on the Tainted Glove actually Monday night because our guy Yumper came on with me, and we were talking about absence, addition by subtraction, and that the way that Wilson Contreras has played this year after last year, we obviously being a little privy to some of the stuff that was going on. It wasn't really pretty in that locker room heading into the All-Star break. I mean, a certain somebody smashed a television set with a bat. Things got so bad after a miserable loss on the Sunday, or was it the Saturday before? Because it got rained out on that Sunday, I think. The Saturday before the All-Star break, it was brutal. And there was a part of the equation that preyed on Wilson's. Like Wilson was almost. It felt like Wilson was being used as like the weapon, so to speak, in that kind of whatever was going on in that clubhouse. And when you cleaned out the clubhouse, Wilson is now being Wilson on his own without anybody influencing them and kind of rubbing them and saying, "You gonna take that shit? You gonna take that shit, bro?" Egging him on. Now he's not, and he's had a fantastic season. I've really enjoyed. Last year he drove me nuts a little bit, and I've really enjoyed watching Wilson Contreras play this entire season. It's across the board. It's if the Cubs do consider themselves as contending over the next 2 seasons, they would sign him. He would be extended. That's, it's stupid. You don't let a guy like that, especially at his age, behind the dish. That is such a valuable. But now, if he's a DH, he's not as valuable as a catcher. But as a catcher, putting up those numbers, you can't find much better value anywhere in baseball. That's what that puts him in the top 2 or 3 catchers alive right now. And so I don't know. It's been fun watching this. So Nico, him, those have been great. Frank Schwindel's fun too, though, just because he's Frank.
Yeah, and you brought up Seiya Suzuki, and that's another annoying part. And it goes back to just the lack of, again, I don't need Jed Hoyer to be telling me every single move that he's planning, not planning. I don't need to know the exact blueprints of what his plan is. But and again, at the end of the day, none of this really matters. Actions speak louder than words. We said the same thing like when there was the rumors of like, oh, they are going to be spending. It's like, well, you can do all the talking in the world, or you have to walk the walk too, right? So at the end of the day, yeah, it's just, as a fan, it's just annoying hearing Jed Hoyer talk about just being wishy-washy about what they're going to do, because it is a rebuild. Right now it seems the earliest they're going to contend is 2024. So, and that would be what, year 3 of Seiya Suzuki's contract. So
and Stroman's gone. Stroman would be gone.
Stroman would be in his last year of his deal. He's still around.
If he doesn't
opt out. So, like, what was the point of those signings? Like,
well, we know now what they were. They were optic signings. Seiya probably not as much, but Stroman was like hey, look, we're trying. Remember, they tried to sell Simmons as a we're trying sale. When they
no, I don't think so. See, that's the thing. I don't.
His glove, and they kind of just try to like wash over the fact that he is a 200 hitter at best.
No, I don't think so. Everyone knew, because everyone knew he's bad. He was just a backup. What annoyed me that day was that's the day we knew. It's like, okay, well, they're not going after Carlos Correa, because I think it was like a couple hours later. That's when there was like, we were getting the reports from what was that guy's name? The Univision guy, I forget his name, Mike something. When the guy who's all in on the Carlos Correa and the Cubs reporting, and like a few hours later, he's like, yeah, the Cubs aren't going to offer Carlos Correa what he wants. They're out. It's like, all right, cool.
And remember, the Cubs used the excuse there. Remember, they said they gave him an offer, and then he changed agents, and it got lost in the shuffle, and they never revisited it.
Yeah,
that is weird to me, because I sent an email to somebody about like, hey, can you, when can I come pick something, or I don't know, something like, can you update the website for us for our, whatever, for our program. Mm-hmm. If I haven't heard from them in a day, I'm like, follow up. Hey, bud, just wondering if you got the email, just double checking. You send a follow up. If a guy gets a new agent, you also send him a fucking fruit basket or something. And then you say, hey, by the way, this is what we were we'll change the contract offer, because, but that was the Cubs' whole thing, is that the Cubs used that as an excuse that they really were never in. They knew he wanted 10, so they offered him 7. He knew that he was not coming down from that 10. They offered him 7. It was a seat at the table, as Mr. Hand likes to say. And
speaking of Carlos Correa, after his slow start, he's been phenomenal for the Twins. I think he had 2 more home runs against Cleveland Wednesday. And he's going to be opting out again. So, and that's the Aaron Judge is going to be a free agent. Like, there's going to be Trey Turner. Like, there's going to be guys that the Cubs can take, and even if they're in a rebuild, because I think back to the San Diego Padres in the 18-19 offseason. Manny Machado signed for $300 million on a bad San Diego team at the time. But they still went out to do it. Why? Because you get a generational talent. Because you would think that within the time of his contract, you're going to compete at some point, right? That should be your plan. So the Cubs have zero excuse. And I hate that fans will give them the leash of like, oh, well, they're not ready to win now. Why would they go sign X free agent? Like, no. You only get so many shots at guys. Be aggressive. Because if you're signing Carlos Correa, you're signing him for like a minimum 8-year deal. Are you telling me that you're not, during those 8 years, during the first half of that contract, you're not going to be ready to compete? Then what's the point of you running things?
There's 2 things that would really concern me, and it would be disheartening if I was a Cubs fan. Number one was when Jed and Theo initially took over, like, we were not supposed to be back at this stage that quickly. Like, 2016 was nice, but like, this should not have fallen apart as quickly as it did. And it looks like they have no plan. And there was one thing, and Jed was on Cap and Jay Hood this morning, and it was a whole lot. Like, I don't think I've seen many people that talk so much and give you like so little. Like, he loves to hear himself talk, and it's just like nothing. It's like a bunch of word salad. But like the one thing he did say that I took away from it, he's like, well, I'm confident that when it's time to spend, the money's going to be there, like it was in 2015. And I don't know if it will be, because the landscape's completely changed. Because now you got Ricketts, who just bought out all of Wrigleyville. He has the hotel. He's buying soccer teams. Like, he seems content with the one World Series they have. I don't know if they're going to have the money to be there. I don't have a whole lot of faith in their ownership. Doesn't seem like they have much of a direction they want to go. So that would be, if I was a Cubs, that's where I'd be really concerned. Because even when it does come time to spend, are they going to have that money to spend? How much money are they going to get? Because Ricketts had biblical proportions, losses of biblical proportions. So,
well, here's the kicker too. Correa says, he wanted 10 last year, so -1. He's going to want 9. If you want someone, you offer them. If you actually want to sign somebody, you don't play that stupid game. You give them 9, and then you figure it out. In a couple of years, Carlos Correa is not going to age as poorly as a Jason Hayward in this sense. He's going to be a guy that's going to age more like what's his name in Detroit, more so than he's gonna age. Pardon?
Cabrera?
Yeah, Cabrera. He's going to age like Miggy. He'll eventually transition down to a DH, but this is a DH world now. He can play a couple seasons. I mean, look at Chris Bryant. I'll say this right now. Chris probably will play left field for 2 seasons, probably move to first base after those 2 seasons for 3. And then his final 2 seasons of his career and the end of this contract, he's going to probably be a DH for the most part. That's perfect for those big boppers. That's what they're going to be able to swing it no matter how old they get. And even if they get a little bit chubby out of shape, they still swing it. It's the defensive stuff. You could just start pulling them out of that stuff. And, at the end of these contracts, it's fine to have a guy like that. I would be fine with a DH that hits 30 jacks a year, is a great guy, good, has good at bats, can help guys around him because he's a hitting savant. Like I'm sure Correa is as far as a teammate. His teammates all love him. So you've got a guy that is loved by his teammates in that clubhouse. So, I mean, if you want him, pay him. Don't worry about the back end of things, because the back end of things isn't nearly as dangerous for National League teams as they used to be. You're not stuck with a guy that has to play defense somewhere and you throw him at first base. Whereas American League teams, you guys are used to dealing with this. National League teams aren't. It's just a new thing. I mean, this is why a guy like Schwarber never should have been DFA, or non-tendered. It's a brave new world for the game, and I think that these contracts do age well now. You're not stuck with that if they're a swinger. Correa's a swinger.
Yeah. And that's why I hate it too when guys do get big contracts and like the team goes on to not win. You put the blame, or generally fans will put the blame on like, oh well, he got the big deal and then they didn't win. That's a bigger indictment on ownership, the front office. They just stopped. They just they did the one big signing and they're like, all right,
they still won with it. Yeah, that's very true.
Pay them heavy early in their contract as well. Don't screw around. Pay them for the years that they have value. Stop back-ending the money and allow those guys to have pretty cheap contracts at the tail end of their time. So it's not an albatross around your neck later when they maybe have less of the value than they have today when they're in their prime.
And that's the thing. Like, it's even if if a guy signs whoever it is, if the guy signs like let's say an 8-year deal, right? He's 28 years old, so having through when he's through 36. From 28, those first 5 years, from 28 through 33, at some point you should be competing. You should be making moves around that player, whatever it is, either other free agents, trades, just good scouting, drafting. You should be able to put a solid group around your star players that by the time you are competing. So when you do get into year 6, 7, 8 of the deal and the player's on his decline, hopefully you won a championship, so it doesn't seem as bad.
It can't
that should be the goal always.
It has to be the ocean's regular waves, not a damn tsunami. That's you want it coming in waves. And this is where they fucked up, and this is what their mistakes in the mid 2016, 17, 18 with their drafts. I mean, Jed's draft, the draft's been poor for the Cubs. I mean, their first round pick in 2019, Ryan Jensen's still can't get out at midway through the he's at, what is he, at Double-A right now, and he's just getting lit. I mean, he's a guy. He's how old is he? 25 now. I mean, come on. I mean, these draft picks aren't hitting as well, so they didn't draft well, And so because when you don't draft well, you have to then now sell your actual talent that's already here and now and get talent that somebody else properly scouted and vetted that have the talent that you need to actually succeed. So it's unfortunately they've drafted like crap. And so this is why people talk, I've heard this a lot too. Oh, the Cubs are losing. They're going to get like a top 3 pick. I don't trust Jed with a top 3 pick. I don't. No, I need him to like take.
He has to prove himself. Yeah.
No other choice but to take the best available that is the consensus best available. He's missed and he's swung and he's missed and he's swung and he's missed. And it's, this year, and I'm going to, I know that Zoe loves this, is when he, picked up Jordan Wicks over Colson Montgomery. Jordan Wicks is, youth pastor down at Single A, still struggling, even though he's a college guy. And the high school kid is so how many times? 30 straight games he's gotten on base. So that 30 some odd straight games Montgomery has gotten on base. So like he passed over that for the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
I mean, the previous feelings, like the reason they are in this, again, they're in this position because they chose to. They could have done moves this past offseason. That's my biggest gripe. Last year with the trades, it sucks that the timing was that you had those 3 guys all being free agents near the end. So, you either had to do whatever your choice was going to be. Fine. I hated it, but they did it. They didn't half-ass it. They traded all 3 guys. They got as much talent as they could. Fine. I hated it, but they didn't half-ass it. They could have still done things this offseason, short-term deals that could benefit them in 2022 and 2023 without, blocking other guys because, again, they're all young. They're like 19, 20-year-old guys who are maybe going to be up, best-case scenario, in 2024. They just set themselves up to fail again. It was like last year, 2021. The Cubs, I know that they had that 11-game losing streak with like the guys before they traded them. That group was set up to fail since the day they traded Yu Darvish. They traded their best pitcher and replaced them with Zach Davies, and then they signed Jake Arrieta, Trevor Williams, and like, all right, guys, here's our starting rotation. Survive, make the playoff, or compete. Like they Tanya Harding the Cubs, just lead pipe to the kneecap because they were done like once the season started because the pitching was never going to hold up because they didn't have the talent. They didn't have the depth. They were never going to succeed in that situation. So and it's the same thing with 2022. They were basically, they had to have 0 injuries and like 5 guys perform at like the 90th percentile of their projections to succeed. And obviously we haven't had that.
Well, and look at what the Dodgers do. And the Dodgers spend a ton. They do. And they, but they also drafted their own talent while also winning. When you look at their, in 2015, the Dodgers were good. When you look at their, Walker Buehler, Matt Beatty, see here, you got Victor Gonzalez. I mean, Gavin Lux was 2016. Dustin May was 2016. I mean, Jock was 2010. So that's a little bit. Edwin Rios, Corey Seager, Will Smith was 2016. And some of those guys, obviously, they were part of the trades. I think, didn't they draft Vertigo or no? Or they traded for Vertigo?
That trade.
Yeah. And so
Boston for somebody.
Mookie, right?
Yes. Part of the Mookie. That's true.
So they even used a couple of those that they drafted well with. So they were able to actually use talent that came up to the big team. But they drafted enough talent that they could use still some of that talent as draft capital.
Ooh, we have some breaking Sox news.
Uh-oh.
Now, this is good. So we had a question earlier, when is Yolbert Sanchez coming up? It doesn't seem like Yolbert Sanchez is going to be the move. We have this tweet 10 minutes ago. Lenyon Sosa is on the move to 35th and Shields. As his Kannapolis host family, we are extremely proud. So Lenyon Sosa... Lenyon, how am I saying that? Lenyon Sosa, he at AA, not in the starting lineup Wednesday night, reportedly, according to his Kannapolis host family, is moving up to the White Sox. How about that? We touched upon him. We
from
touched
the host
upon him
family.
last week. Yeah,
the host family dropping the bomb.
Wow. That's right. Lenyon Sosa. Let's get a quick scouting report on. Oh man,
he's been a stud this year. Like not only is he hitting for average, he's got 14 home runs too. Like he's been sneakily probably the best About Montgomery's been very solid too, but you could argue he's been the best player in the farm system this season.
Hey,
So that's
it's a big injection into like that little woo. That should be a little bit of a boost of adrenaline for the.
you know
soccer.
what? I'd be surprised if it was a short stint too. I feel like you call a guy up from AA like that. That could be he. Could
I mean, this
be-
reminds me like the Morel calling up from AA. From the Cubs
no, it
this
almost feels
season.
like he's going to be there to stay, especially if he hits well early on. Because I don't think you're going to call up a guy from AA like that if it's just for while Danny Mendick's there. I think
so. Sosa, 22 years old, 6-foot shortstop, plays at middle infield. His 2022 sets, as you mentioned, unbelievable. 257 at bats this year, hitting .331 with 14 home runs, a .933 OPS. So he's again, according to his Canapolis at his previous host family, Lenyn Sosa is going to be called up and join the White Sox.
good for Rick Hod, though. I didn't think he'd have the balls to do it, but that I think that's a good move.
An aggressive move. Obviously, Sox have their scouts, who keep an eye on the farm, their own scouts, internal scouting. And I mean, this guy's having a monster year. Perfect time for him. Facing a, not so strong Baltimore team.
Mhm.
So pretty good landing spot.
Can ease his way in. Yeah, get a little confidence early.
So exciting. So it's not Yolbert Sanchez. I don't know how he was doing at AAA. But obviously the White Sox saw something better in Sosa, and he's getting the call now. Obviously, it kind of sucks for Danny Mendick, but
no, between him and Yolbert, power's the big difference. Yolbert is strictly for average. This guy's got some pop. 14 home runs for middle infielder at this point, and AA too. And AA is not a whole lot of scrubs. Like the best pitching, as we've talked about in the show, tends to be in AA. So, pretty good numbers for the 22-year-old there.
All right, something exciting after a tough injury day for the White Sox, but looks like it's going to be Sosa up. All right, I think they do have to make a 40-man move or 40-man roster, maybe. But yeah, a lot of people hyped up for him, so that's great.
Maybe it'll be. I'm guessing he's probably Friday. It'd probably be his first game, is what I would guess. Because Tony likes to. I know he's done this with guys in the past. Is he'll put him in as like a pinch runner late in a game before he gives him the debut the next game. So we'll see. I hope he's in the lineup tomorrow. But if I had to bet, I think Friday would be our first appearance seeing him.
Yeah. So more stats here. 403 weighted on base percentage or on base average, 141 WRC plus. Again, that's all with the Birmingham Barons. AA for the White Sox. Right-handed hitter, improved his walk rate, strikeouts going down, and again the 14 home runs in a huge ballpark down at AA at home, at least in his home games. So no cheapies down there for Sosa. Great for him. Great for this. I mean, again, sucks for Danny Mendick. Seems like he's going to be out for at least the 10-day IL for him. But the White Sox get a look at one of the, I guess, newcomers in terms of a breakout season down in the minors for the White Sox fans. Kevin, predict now Sosa's first home run. Let's do a tattoo bet.
Oh, he hits a home run, and Zoe's got to get a tattoo of me on his lower back.
Yes.
Give him. I mean, weird things happen. Maybe he'll come out of his shoes on the first pitch that he sees and do it in his first at bat. But give him a second. But I mean, the guy's swinging it well. It's AAA. It's not a mat. It's going to be the back end. He sees the back. If he sees the back end of a bullpen, I'd say it's probably one of his an at bat later on in the ball game if he's going to do it for the first time. So like maybe game 1 or game 2, but usually sometime beyond the 5th inning.
Yeah, I feel I don't know why, but there's like obviously more media coverage now for just around the league. But I feel like rookies getting their first home run, like their first at bat, happens at a far greater rate for whatever reason.
Feels like it.
right?
Hayward.
It's like Morel had his, Contreras his first one.
Jason
The
Hayward.
2 Cubs, Hayward off Zambrano. Yeah, those are just like 3 off the top of my head. Yeah. So exciting stuff for the White Sox.
Friday, Bradish is pitching for the Orioles with his 7.38 ERA.
There you go.
That's
your money. That's your money day. Fridays.
He was pitching Saturday.
Maybe drop.
That's the day I think he's going to start first. Oh, to be determined.
Maybe a home run prop bet for Sosa.
Home run prop bet. Yeah, if he's in the lineup Friday, got Bradish. That could be. Yeah, that's the day I'd hammer the Sosa home run.
All right. So again, breaking news. Man, I can't say his name for shit. Lenyon. What do you get? Lenyn?
Yeah.
Lenyn Sosa coming up for the White Sox.
Am I reading too much into this? By the way, a total side note. Ian Happ was pulled tonight for no reason. Right after 2 at bats. Are the Cubs putting him in bubble wrap a little bit? He's got some of the best as a left fielder in baseball right now, or in the National League. Is he getting the bubble wrap treatment? Did he just
enjoy? You know what? Honestly, do you see Ian Happ being a part of the next wave of a championship contending team? I think you just go all in and you sell them all off. I would trade Stroman. I would trade Hendricks. I would trade Contreras at this point. Just go all in, get as many visible product as it is right now. It's not even like there's no hope there. They got no up and coming.
I'm glad you brought that up, Mitch, because that's the other thing. It's not just the choices that they make of like, is there good or bad that they are doing a rebuild. It's just call it what it is, as you said. As Kevin has brought up a lot of times, the Cubs have the most expensive ticket to go to a baseball game. Like the Cub fans do not deserve this bullshit of paying the most to go watch a AAA team. So that's the other.
Yeah, but you get to make a cup snake out in the bleachers, so it's fun.
Hey, White Sox fans love that too.
Jordan Miller really loves it.
Wave. I cannot stand either of them. The cup snake is so overrated. Ugh. Especially the wave when it's like a.
Mitch, you're a frequenter.
We're all growing with the wave.
You're a frequenter of a Sox game. Well, what happened? I feel like why is the wave a thing at Sox games?
I don't. Too many Cub fans are moving over to the Sox.
That's not blame. No.
The biggest moment of the game.
It was Antifa. I swear. Antifa did it. It wasn't us.
What would you rather have, Mitch? The wave or the Cup Snakes?
Oof.
Ooh.
That's tough.
Be like, yeah, Sox. If you go to a Sox game, they do the.
I always see more Cup Snakes on my Snapchat feeds and like Instagram. So I'd probably get rid of the Cup Snake first. Like everyone always has to post a damn photo of the Cup Snake. It's like, we get it. You're drinking a lot of beer.
All right, you hear to hear first.
Cup
Mitch,
Snake.
#1 wave fan.
It's crazy that the Cup Snake really kind of blew up, especially like at least nationally during a pandemic when there's so many bodily fluids that are just popping out of those cups too. It's just
is that what happened? I thought it was 2019.
I mean, but it really kept popping like since we've come back. They've
that's true.
Really been plugging it nationally. I've seen it more on TV. Where I'm like, oh, that's just gross. But fan, how you want to fan? Just don't do the wave.
Did any of you guys watch? Speaking of gross things on TV, that Sunday night game with the stupid home run trade with that ball.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! That was some of the worst television I think I've ever watched. Like that was so bad.
If there's not an update on this Sunday night broadcast, I'm going to be very disappointed. Like, how is the kid doing? It's been a week now. He's 7 days older, and he still has the jersey that he got signed. And
Mitch, how do you like this new wave of attention of it? Obviously the White Sox are better now. They get more national TV games. Don't you love it?
I thought I would like it. I'm like, all right, Sunday Night Baseball. And then I realized how bad the broadcast is for it. I was like,
welcome to the 10%ers. You get to have to actually pay attention to Alex Rodriguez sometimes. And
I think
it's a boot.
I'll be honest, I have not tuned into a Sunday Night Baseball game since like 2019.
I have it on mute, so like I don't listen.
Like I remember specifically. I think it wasn't. When was the last season of Game of Thrones? 2019.
Yeah.
that summer.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I think for like a stretch there, I just didn't watch a good portion of like whenever the Cubs were on Sunday night because Game of Thrones was on, and I didn't miss it. So I think
didn't
ever
mind
since
Mad
then, I
Max
got
versus
used to
it,
just
but other
not
than
tuning
that,
in.
Yeah, it's tough. I think the only thing worse is the Apple TV broadcast. Like those are actually like
Those are rough.
Those
Those
are
are rough.
The broadcasters, the tech, everything else about the broadcast
Yes.
for on Apple is freaking fantastic, except for the actual on-air personalities.
It's rough. Yeah.
I feel like Apple will be the one that actually does listen to our suggestion, Aldo, and actually mics up all the different players at every
All the
position and puts mini cams on every position player so that you can actually go to different camera feeds and see it from their POV at any point and uncensored without any edits, so you can hear all the swears and everything. It'd be great. Apple
That
will
would be
yeah.
cool. Fox didn't
They-
mind when they had Liam Hendricks mic'd up. Like all those swears were clear. So
I want
Send-
that. I want that uncensored. I just want that so
exactly.
bad.
I want to hear the Dominican swearing in left field when the
Yeah.
starter walks. I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be.
Or just talking shit when they talk shit to each other, like on a double play ball. Like you could actually hear both mics, like "bitch, you out, go back," or like
that is
miss
one
the
of the
code.
things.
Great.
That is one of the things I do miss, like in terms of like the broadcasting. Like it was really weird, obviously with no fans. But during 2020, when you can hear the players
Oh
like
yeah.
talking shit on the field, like that was great. Like I remember that a few times the Cubs, like the Brewers were getting mad at the Cubs because like they kept talking shit during games, and it's like, yeah, like we do this every game. You're just hearing us more because there's no one in the stands.
That was also that's what I loved. That was the only redeeming thing of when the White Sox are terrible. I remember one day there was a doubleheader against the Astros, and we came for the first game. I was going to both of them. The one was like a 1:00 on like a Wednesday, and Zach Greinke was pitching, and he's loud to begin with, but that stadium was empty. You could hear everything he said, and it was awesome. I loved it.
By the way, Mitch, before we get out of here, you mentioned how you used to do some umpire work. Do you have a crazy parent story or coach
Oh.
story or any crazy umpiring story?
Nothing like too. The worst was that my mask broke on like a foul ball, and it was one of
Oh,
those
shit.
games where it was like 7 innings, but if like there was no whites on the field, so if it got to a certain point where you couldn't see, like the game was over. And so like I was trying to adjust the mask because I couldn't get on, and like the strap was just like it was fucked. So like I'm working with the strap, and the parent was accusing me of like stalling for time, like oh, so like that was like a whole thing. So that was pretty bad. I'm trying to think on the other like crazy ones. This is a lot of verbal abuse you get because everyone's kid's gonna be, getting a college scholarship to play. You don't want to lower their batting average by missing a call on the outside corner. But yeah, you just kind of after a while you just kind of learn to block it out. I tended to have I never threw anyone out, which I kind of wanted to. I probably should have thrown 4 people out. I let a lot slide.
Kevin, I don't think I've ever asked you what's like the craziest like parenting is. Excluding Mike Bryant, what's the crate? No, I'm just kidding.
I could write a book. I've actually written multiple chapters of a book actually that I have on my hard drive. I kid you not. I have so many stories with ape shit crazy parents. Some of them are like you can't even believe. I mean, I've had parents at the the banquet, the senior banquet, or not the senior banquet, the team banquet. That was a police officer, a detective here with our metro, and him and his wife got hammered drunk, and after it was over, walked up to me and put the handshake out like to shake my hand. So that's obviously a sign of like peace. That's what I'm like, sweet. I didn't get along with these parents. I struggled them the whole time. They were a pain in my ass. And I was like, you know what? Good. We can like not burn a bridge, say goodbye. And I shake his hand. He pulls me in close, goes, "You're going to fucking rot in hell." And he comes up and leans and goes, "Fuck you, you son of a bitch." And I'm like, "What the hell?" And I'm like, "You guys reek." Like they smelled like a cabinet of Jack. And I'm like, dude. And then one of our senior, captain who was going to, he was our Division I player on our team, runs over and he's like, he splits it up, and I had to hold him back. Actually, it was pretty funny. I'm like, no. And I pulled him back. I'm like, that's just how people. So that's some people just how you say goodbye tells you everything, man. That's how they say goodbye. And then they walked out, hammer drunk, and handed the valet their car keys and drove on home.
Jeez.
So that was one. I mean, I've had multiple ones. I've had one fight. Where at Bonanza we had it wasn't me specifically. Like I wasn't the problem. I was actually the peacekeeper. But in a summer game, Coach for Gorman, his name's Gino. He's a monster. Like, the dude's just a beast. Like, I would not mess with him. I love going out and hanging out with him because no one messes with us, because he's just a freaking shit house, like a brick house. Like, he's awesome. And he doesn't take shit.
You kind of have to be like that.
Yeah.
Just sounds like,
And his longtime family, his dad is a well-respected gentleman here in Vegas. His dad and my papa knew each other. My papa worked at security at the Riv, and they knew each other. So awesome little connection. He, the Fertitas and all the guys, Dana White and all those guys at Gorman, they all went to high school together. So he's a big guy. Anyway, we had a game in the summer, and our 2013 parents were awesome. Like, I love them to death. Like, they were like some of my favorite parents of the parents that we had come through our program. But they were mouthy. But they were funny mouth. They talk shit like a lot. And, they were very hot-headed sometimes. And one of the games, Gino finally lost his shit. It was a hot summer day too. He was going to fight like 6 of the parents. The parents were like, after he was like, wait for me in the parking lot. And I'm like, all right, how do I get this? How do I even break? Because he beat the shit out of all 5. Like, he would have won the fight. Like, I don't give a shit. And that's why I finally walked over to the parents and go, guys, knock this shit off. I go, let him leave or you guys leave, because I love you guys to death. You're awesome. I swear to you. But I'm going to be straight with you. He's going to beat the shit out of all 5 of you. You're all going to not walk away from this. That's where he's coming from, because I know what he can do. There are stories. So
I feel like that scene from South Park with Randy Martin. What? I thought it was America's. Gino kicked the crap out of him.
So that was good. And they obviously made up. Like, again, Gino's cool. Like, he's like, all right, fine. Like, he cooled down too. Like, but there was a moment where I thought I was going to like go out and see like some sort of John Wick moment where he's just like Batman beating up like a bunch of criminals. So that was, I could go on and on because there's too many. But with umpires, I mean, last night was kind of funny. We ran into Phil, he's I think the head of the Umpire Association here. He works at the Aviator Stadium, because I went to go see Chris play last night on his rehab assignment with the I think Albuquerque. They're the mariachis last night, so it was rad uniforms and hats. But he's working there too. He works at like customer relations or whatever. And we see him. We're like, hey, hey, Phil, what's up? Because he's usually, he's a home plate ump too, and he doesn't mess around either. And we walked away, and we're like, so do you think Phil recognized us? And my buddy's like, what? I go, shit. He goes, what? I go, I know he fucking heard us. He just can't see us, because that's pretty much how he was an umpire. Like, he rabbit ears, and he missed a lot of calls. So we're like, you could say, nah, hell no. And he'd hear you in the dugout, like in the corner, like, Fiddler, I heard that. I'm like, shit. Like, always catching me. So we have umpire stories too. So there's lots. I can tell you about the umpire that was drunk umpiring a game that we lasted probably till 11:30 at night.
Oh my goodness.
Mike McDougal will tell that story.
That's
Tanner was there
a
for
hell
that
of a
one.
book. I will be the first to buy that once it's on the show. And
if I borrow stories from other coaches, I mean, it could be an anthology of holy hell. Like, it's almost too unbelievable as a coach. Coach 16 years.
Yeah, I was about to ask how many years in the game, Kevin.
16 as a coach, yeah. So I mean, and before that as a media member covering it too. So I saw it, heard it from I was like the imaginary guy that like was hiding in the bleachers. No one knew who the hell I was. So I got to hear everything. I was like fly on the wall. So I got to hear crazy. Oh yeah. So there's some great anecdotal stories though, but. Or the time I had a player try to skip practice, told me that he didn't feel good. He actually pooped himself a little. I actually said that in the text. I'm like, that's a little too much information there, bud. You could have just said, I'm not feeling good, coach. You had to tell me you shit your pants. Thanks.
Who is it? Oh man, what's his name? Damn it, from Kansas City.
Oh, George Brett.
George Brett's son.
His pants. Yeah, right. In Vegas, nice steak dinner.
Funny George Brett story. The golf course I work at, they have like a bunch of like their caddies there, and the caddies are kind of idiots. Chicago Golf in Wheaton, but George Brett was there one day, and the caddies like he's caddying for him, had no idea who it was. So afterwards, like George Brett's like, "Oh, do you want like an autograph or like picture something?" And the guy's like, "No, why the hell would I want that?" They're like, "You idiot! That was George Brett, the Hall of Famer." So
here's the best one. This version of it's the best.
Down in both hands, right side. Oye, cállese y suéltese. For the left side. I shit my pants last night. I did. I shit my pants last night. I shit my pants last night. I did. Fucking shit my pants. I had a great meal. Just a great fucking meal. I had to go to the bathroom so bad. I fucking shit my pants. I had a great meal. Just a great fucking meal. I had to go to the bathroom so bad. I fucking shit my pants.
So yeah, that's just great stuff right there.
What a phenomenal remix.
It was really good. He tells that story. But that's why we need to mic up the baseball players, because I need to hear the banter and I need to hear, because you guys, let's be honest, it would kind of mess with, maybe they do need to turn it off in the dugout on the feeds, because that is kind of the sanctum of it. But the stories that you hear in a dugout are just fantastic. And especially dudes like that, they tell stories so well. You have to be a good storyteller to be in the dugout, especially for like coaches and old timers. You've got to be able to tell a story. You've got to be able to like keep everybody entertained, because man, sometimes it gets doldrum and gets just kind of like through the motions, and something's got to break up the monotony, especially when it's hot outside and everyone's tired.
I agree with you, Kevin. Like, I don't know, make it, I don't know, release a compilation video, sell DVDs. I don't care. Like, do something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Muffle their, like, edit the voices. I don't know, people can't tell who it is. I don't know, but that'd be great. Yeah, no, just that little story was just like off. They're like practicing.
Yeah, stretching.
He's just he's just off on the side telling a coach the story.
Stretch stories are great too. Yeah, I mean that's the best time. Like all that. They just got to make sure that as soon as they hear the word cleat chaser, they need to make sure they mute. Or slump busters, mute. Protect the image and maybe some marriages.
So Cubs won Wednesday night 14-5. They have their series finale Thursday against the Pirates.
Mm-hmm.
The White Sox they're going to be hosting the Orioles for 4. Austin Hayes, as Zoe pointed out in the comments, Austin Hayes hit for the cycle on Wednesday. He's coming to town hot. So any final thoughts on the White Sox or Cubs? Here you go. We'll start with Mitch.
Excited to see the new up-and-coming prospect. Hayes obviously will be good, but Sosa's going to outdo him. He's hitting that home run Friday. Place your bets there. I understand you take 5 of 7 in this next 2 seasons. They should win them all, but you take 5 of 7. I will be happy. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm feeling confident. Cubs, not so much.
I don't blame you. Kevin, final thoughts on this week, the upcoming week.
Well, I mean, for us, it's Cardinals weekend. So, but it's in St. Louis, and you always kind of try to get up for those. But I mean, you don't want to back in there. I mean, the Cubs lost 2 of 3 so far to the Pirates on the road already at this point. You're hoping that maybe they can maybe put up a fight against the Cardinals at least, because it's. I mean, honestly, I don't want to deal with Cardinal fans, and they're going to want to bury the Cubs if they can. So that'll be a tough. But they've got a pretty decent stretch. I mean, it goes couple with the Pirates. You got the Cardinals 3-gamer, and then you got the Reds. But then after that Red series, I believe for the Cubs. They did just finish this little stretch that was tough, I think, 7-14. But after you finish with, you go 3 against the Cardinals, 3 against the Reds, 3 against Boston, 3 against the Brewers, 4 against the Dodgers through July 10th. Get a nice couple 2-gamers versus the Orioles, and then a 4-game set to close out to the All-Star break against arguably the hottest team in the National League, the New York Mets. So it's not the Cubs they've got a minefield to get through. They really only have 2. Let's see, it would be 2, and then you got the Reds game. So they got about 5.
Did you give yourself the cricket soundbite?
That's my a little alarm.
I was like, was that Mitch? Was Mitch giving out the cricket soundbites?
No, that was not me. That almost reminded me of like that Dave Chappelle bit where he's got the wrap it up.
Yeah, the wrap.
That's what I thought you.
That was my wrap it up button for my own phone. It's time to go watch MASH on the television. So yeah, they got 7 cupcakes in.
The last thing I would say, you're bringing up the schedule and you're bringing up the Cardinals and the Brewers upcoming. That's the other annoying part. Those teams are not that good. They're 39-31. They're like, I mean, they have winning records, but they are not that good. The Cubs had no excuse not to at least try to compete in this division.
That's what we
right
thought.
Now. Right now, the only thing they're competing for is to like stay out of last place.
Yeah, with the Reds, which the Red series they could go fall back into it. The funny thing is, this is what we thought the Cubs were doing. I thought the Cubs were putting together a good enough team that in the shitty NL Central, they would be right in the thick of it. Like a second place. What is the old Reinsdorf thing? A second place team sells a hell of a lot of tickets,
Like that,
right?
like that's the thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. They should have been a team that
And you get that right.
we could have still called them out for not trying as much as they could have, but they could have fallen back on like, oh look, we were competing until this day, or we were competing through this time, but they couldn't even do that.
I will give St. Louis some credit, by the way. If you like Italian, go get some Italian on the Hill. It's a good place to go eat. St. Louis pizza's terrible.
Okay.
But sorry, Matt. Sorry, Jack. But yeah. Anyway, if you're going to go watch the Cubs this week, if you were a Cub fan braving, hopping through Springfield and jumping on over to St. Louis, go to the Hill. Get some pasta.
Zoe will be back, I think, next week. We'll see what stories he brings back. But until then, everyone take care. Go Cubs, go Sox, and fuck the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.